Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I've lived on my family's farm for as long as I can remember. My great-grandfather built the old barn by hand way back in the 1920s. It's been passed down through generations and holds countless memories and pieces of our family history. Even though it's ancient, I still use the barn daily for my animals and equipment. A few years back, I decided the barn was long overdue for some fixes. The wood had become brittle and weather-worn, with parts of the exterior peeling off. Inside, the floorboards creaked loudly with every step. It made me nervous having heavy machinery parked on such an unstable surface. I called my cousin Brad, who works in construction, and asked if he could take a look. He agreed the barn desperately needed repairs and offered to help with the renovation project. I was thrilled. This was my chance to restore the barn to its former glory while keeping it safe and usable. Brad and I put together a plan to reinforce the framing, replace damaged boards, and give the exterior a fresh coat of bold red paint. I could already picture how proud my great-grandfather would be to see his beloved barn looking majestic again. Just as we were about to start demolition, who should come marching up my driveway but the president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association, the notorious Karen Smith. Now I'll tell you right off the bat, I am not part of that homeowner association. My property is outside their jurisdiction, but that's never stopped Karen from sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. "Just what do you think you're doing?" Karen snapped, eyeing the barn distastefully. I explained we were renovating the barn and it would look much nicer when we were done. Karen scrunched her face up. "That dilapidated shack is an eyesore as it is. Don't you think you should just tear it down and build something more modern and less offensive looking?" I couldn't believe my ears. This barn had been standing for nearly a century. It was irreplaceable. "With all due respect, this is my private property," I said evenly. "The barn stays." Karen's shrill voice went up an octave. "That hideous thing is going to ruin our whole community's image. Don't you care about property values? As president of the Homeowner Association, I simply cannot allow this." Now I was getting hot under the collar. "For the last time, I'm not in your Homeowner Association. You have zero authority here. Now please get off my land before I call the police." Karen gasped dramatically. "How dare you speak to me that way? I'll have you know I'm on the zoning board and I can make sure that barn never gets approved." She stormed off in a huff before I could respond. Brad scratched his head. "What a piece of work. Let's just get started on these repairs before she causes any more trouble." We decided to work fast in case Karen tried something sneaky. By the end of the week, we had finished reinforcing the interior framing and applied a first coat of gleaming red paint to the outside. I could already tell a huge difference. My great-grandfather would have cried tears of joy to see his barn looking so revitalized. But the next morning when I went out to admire our progress, I stopped dead in my tracks. The entire south side of the barn was smashed in and collapsed. Jagged shards of wood jutted out dangerously from the wreckage. Paint was strewn all over, blending into the dirt. It looked like someone had taken a wrecking ball to it. Just then, I heard an engine roar and turned to see a huge bulldozer retreating down my driveway. And there was Karen in the driver's seat, cackling wildly. My blood boiled hotter than lava. That deranged woman had deliberately destroyed days of hard work out of sheer pettiness. I dialed police immediately and explained what happened. Thankfully, a patrol car arrived in minutes to inspect the damage. Karen must have lingered nearby because she came stomping back over, yelling that I was slandering her good name with false accusations. But when the officer saw the vandalism firsthand and recognized Karen as the Homeowner Association president, 2 and 2 clicked. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with me," he said sternly, guiding a sputtering Karen into the patrol car. She was arrested for destruction of private property and fined a whopping $10,000. But the justice didn't end there. With the evidence stacked against her, I sued Karen and won a hefty sum for damages and emotional distress. Her reckless stunt also got her permanently removed from the Homeowner Association board. The final cherry on top, I petitioned the zoning board and had her precious Oakwood estate stripped of its Homeowner Association status. No more power trips for Karen. As for my barn, Brad and I tirelessly repaired the destruction that jealous Karen had caused. We toiled for weeks, triple-checking every inch was restored to its original sturdiness and charm. And let me tell you, that fresh crimson coat of paint has never looked better. The place practically glows with new life. Every time I walk into the barn now and see sunlight streaming through the window, highlighting all our hard work, it really feels like my great-grandfather's spirit is still here, smiling down with pride. This barn withstood a deranged homeowner association, Karen, and now it's ready to stand strong for another 100 years. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I recently partnered with a small production facility in my area. Our contract was based on capital investment, along with designing implementing new automation processes. 2-year outlook finished in 8 months. It was a typical small production facility comprised of 50 production workers through 2 shifts of 12 hours that ran 2 days on then 3 days off. Also, there were 2 production supervisors for each shift and 1 maintenance supervisor for each shift. The people and their attitude are ultimately what led to my decision to be more than an outside contractor for this company, until I worked the night shift for a week, due to shutdowns that needed to occur to implement certain line upgrades. This is where I met him. We will call him Richard Head. Richard seemed like a nice guy in our first few encounters, and then I heard him in his element directing his maintenance crew at night over the radio. He would belittle this group of guys who were there to do a set task list every night for whatever machinery they were doing preventative maintenance on, unless something broke on the line, which would require attention first, obviously. I've never heard grown men spoken to like this, and never heard any nasty remarks back or defending themselves. He would call them stupid on the radio if they were having trouble troubleshooting a problem, call some fat and lazy, called one black guy the N-word. The guy had been there since they opened the doors, and to be honest, made me want to rescind any commitment I have ever made to this company. When I escalated this up to the plant manager, he assured me that it was friendly banter, and they rarely had complaints against him. True, because anyone who ever did so in confidence of anonymity was always outed, and then singled out until they were terminated by him. Since no one was going to listen to me, I decided to do my due diligence and started to document everything I heard on the radio with a date/time, witnesses to the treatment, and what rights the individual was having violated due to our state and federal outlines. I made this spreadsheet my entire time in the shift, documenting every personal account I witnessed as well. Harassment is a major problem with industry work, but the one that I have learned is the company killer is retaliation. If you can prove that, then they stand no chance. I saw him one night tearing down this 50-year-old man who requested 2 days off to the point I wanted to lose my cool, but knew it would ruin all the information I was gathering. Days off were because his nephew was just in a car accident 2 days prior and had to have multiple reconstructive surgeries scheduled. I knew that now was the time to move on everything. I rounded up all the maintenance guys and shared all my documentation with them. They didn't realize the importance of this information like I had. They just said nothing will change. Nothing changed because no one treats an issue as an issue if you come with incorrect, non-detailed information. The fact that he used the radio so much was a godsend that they didn't see as well. When he spoke this way to people, he must not have ever realized that there are other supervisors on shift, and that they, in fact, unintentionally became the strongest witness in the cases, especially when you have some audio recordings verifying the accounts. They have no choice but to acknowledge what they have heard. Each worker took their logs, and even though I have a capital time investment in this facility, I urge them at a minimum to petition to have this man removed or to threaten legal action. Once they coordinated a day to expose all this, it was like watching a sports movie when the underdogs take the championship and get the girl at the same time. Not only did the man finally get fired, but the entire atmosphere around the place changed more than I could imagine. Older machines ran the best they have ever run in my time there, and people loved coming to work again. They also put a placard on my door for when I came in about a week later. It said #1 boss, but the boss was crossed out and hand engraved under it was the word badass. I obviously removed it from my door, but I put it in my home office, and it is probably the best thing I have ever received from a facility. The next one is a petty revenge story. Backstory: I live in a tourist city. The only way into the city is via small bridges. They're gorgeous, but getting in and out of the city can be annoying as they often open for boats. And then you either have to wait 10 to 15 minutes or drive to the other side of the city to enter from there. There are earlier bridges, but due to the one-way roads, that would take even longer in most cases. I've learned to be quite patient since living here. Today, when I drove home, I tried turning onto one of the bridges as I had a green light and saw a boat coming. I had noticed a tourist with a camera on the sidewalk before I turned onto it, but didn't think much of it. This particular bridge has sidewalks on both sides. And then without warning, as I was turning in, she suddenly sprinted onto the road. What the heck? I had to slam my emergency brakes, And this woman was lucky I don't drive like a maniac and was very aware of my surroundings because I would have hit her if I didn't react as quickly as I did. She seriously saw me turning onto the bridge and sprinted in front of my car so she could get a good picture while blocking the intersection. I was flabbergasted. Due to her position, I was still half on the intersection, blocking traffic trying to pass through, so naturally, I honked at her to get the heck off the road. Wrong choice. This woman went crazy, screaming, waving her arms at me, knocking her head, pretending like I was the crazy one. I just couldn't help but start laughing. I mean, you walked onto an active intersection. I'm not the insane one here, lady. Luckily, after a minute or two of screaming, she let me pass. And as soon as I passed, I saw in my rearview mirror she was blocking the next car, doing the exact same thing, standing in the middle of the intersection to take a picture. So I did the only thing I could do according to my brain in that moment. I stopped my car right in the middle of the bridge and waited until she would either move out of the way or the bridge opened. Meaning I was actively blocking any opportunity for a nice picture. She didn't move. She just screamed from a distance until I heard the signal that the bridge would open, meaning she would not be able to take her picture for at least 20 minutes. Open time plus time to have all traffic pass. And I drove home with a stupid petty grin on my face. Worth it. So yeah, screw you, lady. Just because you have a $500 camera doesn't mean the world revolves around you and your stupid pictures. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I used to work as one of 3 assistants for the engineering and R&D department of a medical company. My desk was situated between the other 2 assistants, and we were all in the middle of a cube farm. It was problematic because everyone who had to go anywhere had to come by my desk. They would stop, say hello, and no matter how hard I tried, they'd start chatting. This, of course, impacted my work. After a certain point, my supervisor pulled me into an office and told me that I talked too much, that it's impacting my work, and to not talk so much with people. I asked her to give me a script for what to say to people, and she didn't have anything to offer. I was in counseling at the time, and I asked my counselor the same question. She said to use the phrase, "I won't talk to you right now," and return to my work. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and that's too abrupt for me. So I stopped talking. To everyone. After about a week, once again my supervisor called me into the office. She asked me what's wrong. I told her nothing was wrong. She said people are complaining that I'm being antisocial. I said, you told me to stop talking to people, that I was talking too much and it was impacting my work, so I did. She said, I didn't mean it like that. Once again, I asked her to clarify exactly what I should and should not say, how much conversation was too much, and what to say when the conversation went on too long. Again, she had no response. She said, just don't talk too long. I returned to work. One of our lab techs was one of the chattiest and one of the worst offenders. She came by my desk one day, we exchanged greetings, and she started chatting. I quietly told her that I had gotten in trouble for talking too much, and I needed to get back to work. She respected that and walked away. I did that a few more times, and the point got made to the office. It didn't make my supervisor look particularly good because everyone knew when I said I was in trouble, what the source was, and when layoffs came sometime later, guess who was the first to go? Don't get me wrong, it was a blessing in disguise. The severance was amazing. They paid for job placement training, gave us 9 months notice, and once our termination date came, they paid us out in regular paychecks, not in the lump sum. During that time, for me, almost 3 months, I accrued vacation and sick time the whole time. They cashed it all out at the end. The week after my severance package ran out, I found a job at another division of the same company and continued for another 11 years. The next one is an entitled people story, so this happened yesterday. I am staying in a mountain resort in a 5-star hotel, and there is a beautiful spie with a mountain view. It's the holiday season, so needless to say, there are a lot of people. Recently, I bought myself some nice Brunello Cucinelli slippers, which I now use to go to spas. A guest just walked away from the jacuzzi in my slippers, which I noticed after a few minutes. I asked the nearby staff person if they had seen them, and the guy answered that a person walked away in them. At first I thought it was a mistake, but then I noticed that there is no other slipper pair. Only 2 of us were in a jacuzzi at the time. And it's less likely that somebody who walked without any would just put the pair on and go away. The staff guy asked me to wait a few minutes and went back somewhere. Turns out they checked the spa cameras and it was a guest from the presidential suite. I did not want to make a hassle out of it, but I stumbled into this person, who was in my slippers, and politely said that he might have walked out in my slippers. The answer literally made my eyes come out. He said literally, Why do you care that much, greedy guy? They don't fit you, and you don't deserve them anyways. Then after my very angry, "Excuse me," the one you typically throw before punching someone, he just threw them off and rushed away, right in front of several staff members and guests. I had a friendly chat with a hotel manager who found me later in the evening. He said that sadly, numerous stealing attempts like this happen regularly, but they don't take expensive things. A day before, a grown woman stole a large ice cream dessert that was brought for a teenage girl while she was in a sauna. It cost less than $15. There are no poor people in this hotel. In season, which is winter and summer, a standard room typically costs above $500 night. The presidential suite is more than $5,000. Imagine the entitlement of stealing slippers, even if pricey ones, right in front of staff and cameras. The next one is an entitled parent story. I, 32F, was in a major car accident in January of 2021. Ironically, I had been taking my boyfriend, 36M, to the ER because he had bleeding ulcers and ended up getting admitted to the hospital that night. This was still when they were enforcing COVID rules, so I was booted out of the hospital at about 0300 in the morning. When I left, it was snowing, and not thinking, I hopped on the freeway, which wasn't a good idea. I'd been driving a lifted Jeep Cherokee with mud terrain tires, not the best ever for snowstorm driving. Getting off the freeway to go home, my brakes locked up, and I went into a light pole headfirst at about 60 miles per hour. My Jeep did not have airbags. That was dumb. Needless to say, my car was totaled, and I had to be extracted from the car by the fire department. This whole time I had been blacking out and losing consciousness, and I still get random flashes of what happened. I don't have all my memories from that night or several months after the accident. I got sent to the nearest trauma center, which was the same hospital I had just left. The nurses felt pretty bad about kicking me out. I ended up with a moderate to severe TBI, broken under my left eye, hairline fractures on my skull on the left side, bruising behind my ears, and black eyes. I had also cut open the inside of my mouth, had multiple lacerations all over my face. I broke my driver's side window with my face. Broke and bruised some ribs, had hairline fractures in my spine, broke my right wrist, my right knee, and my left foot, which required 2 surgeries, and I still need approximately 3 more. Needless to say, I was not doing great. I had recently gotten divorced the previous year and think that my entitled parents decided that my accident was my boyfriend's fault. I had to stay in the hospital for a total of 12 days, during which the mild family drama exploded into a severe family inferno. As I got closer to being released, all I had wanted to do was go home to my boyfriend and our kids. He had 2 previously, and I had 1. My entitled mother decided that wasn't what she wanted. On the phone, we sound almost identical. The whole time that I was in the hospital, she had been getting on the phone and impersonating me to my apartment complex management, even going as far as calling the cops to get my boyfriend and his 2 kids removed from my apartment. They were not on my lease yet. My entitled mom also forged my signature on hospital paperwork and made up a story about how my boyfriend was abusive to me and got him banned from seeing me at the hospital. Again, forging my signature and writing a letter stating I didn't want to see him. This whole time, I was still suffering from the effects of my TBI and was delirious from the combination of pain medications and brain fog from my head injury. Entitled mom even had the locks changed on my apartment without my consent. When I finally was released from the hospital, I was in a wheelchair because of my broken foot that had just had 2 plates and 10 screws surgically put in to hold it together and an ankle-to-hip brace on my other leg from my knee being broken. I requested to go home to my apartment, but again, entitled mom played it that I couldn't go home because I had a 2nd-story apartment and couldn't take care of myself. So I got sent to stay at my parents' house, against my will, an hour away from home because entitled mom wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to let my boyfriend come back to my apartment. I spent almost a whole miserable month there. Entitled mom refused to take me home even after I got crutches and was able to bear some weight. Initially, they refused to even go get my crutches from town because they didn't want me to have more mobility. Eventually, it got to the point where I had a friend come and pick me up from entitled mom's house so I could go home because they kept refusing to let me go. As I gained clarity in my mind and was taken off the intense pain medication, I was able to start rectifying the situations that entitled mom made a huge mess of in my life. But I'm still trying to recover in some areas. I didn't find out until much later when medical bills started coming in that entitled mom had called my boyfriend's health insurance company, impersonating me, and had me removed from his insurance. It took months of calling and badgering and footwork on my part to get the situation figured out and have the insurance pay for what they were supposed to pay for. It almost caused me to go bankrupt. At the same time, Entitled Mom signed me up for minimal health insurance coverage through the state that I had no idea I was enrolled in until I got a bill later stating that I owed fees. Needless to say, I eventually completely cut both Entitled Mom and my father out of my life after finding out how much they tried to control and how much they messed my life up. I ended up getting protection orders after they tried to break into my house, stalked me, and sent family and friends over to harass me. This whole incident was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was quite a bit of retaliation on their side that threw my life into a total tailspin ever since, but I'm sticking to my guns and not backing down. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.